The National Environment Civil Society Alliance of Kenya, and we're looking at the manifestos of our presidential candidates with a view to analyzing what these manifestos say about our environment. I'm called Dominic Walubengo. I'm the co-chair of the National Environment Civil Society Alliance, also called Necsa in short. And as I was saying, we're here to analyze the manifestos. We have looked at the manifestos, and we as Environment and Natural Resources Management Civil Society have seen several gaps. And the gaps we are looking at are in water, they are in natural resources management, and the gaps are also in youth. Regarding natural resources management, we can subdivide that into several areas, one of them being wildlife and forests, as well as land. We see there are gaps in those areas. We don't see enough statements on management of wildlife and how the wildlife will be protected. And in fact, we are not seeing, we are seeing no statement on how forests will be protected. We know very well that water comes from forests or from hills, and we're not seeing any protection being offered to those catchment areas. We have seen a reference to things called water towers, but in science there's nothing called a water tower. It's just a water catchment area, and we're not seeing any protection in that area. I would now like to request a youth to say something about youth employment as stated in the manifestos.
And I'd like to address a few issues on behalf of the youth pertaining to what the manifestos really try to voice out on behalf of the youth and addressing the issues of youth and employment. The manifestos are, in their own way, are really sweet to be heard by ears and probably to be read. But as youths, we feel that these manifestos have not really deeply addressed the issues that greatly affect us as youths. And the reason as to why I'm saying this is that the natural capital or the environmental sector issues that greatly could change our lifestyle and also promote employment and also promote our socioeconomic status have not really been addressed, but rather have just been touched to just please the ears and probably pursue the voters to just give the voters what they need the vote. And what we're trying to say this time is that as youth, we shall voice out, because what we're saying is that if there is nothing about, there's nothing about us without the proper addressing of issues to do with the environmental sectors and also the natural capital. Because if you just talk of conservation, you just talk of protection and provision of opportunities in the natural resources, then we feel that it is not enough. It's not enough to make us as youth feel that we are included in this. And therefore, what we are urging all the youths in the nation is that we need to wake up, we need to stay alert than ever, and we need to ensure that our voice is heard and heard clearly for a sustainable future, because there is nothing about us without the inclusion and proper inclusion of the natural capital and also the environmental sector's issues.
I work with an organization called Sustainable Energy Access Forum Kenya. We are an advocacy group that is advocating for issues of renewable energy access. The global community has committed to achieve net zero by 2050, and as a country, we in our updated NDCs, Kenya committed to achieve to cut down its emissions by 32%. In in order for us to achieve this, there is need for political goodwill that is going to ensure that we have a conducive environment that is going to guarantee us cutting down our emissions by 32%. Going through the manifestos by the leading candidates in the country, we've only seen them just mentioning issues of renewable energy and climate change partially. But we will all agree that climate change is the current global crisis, which, if not well addressed, if not well factored in the manifesto, is going to hamper the achievement of all the other agenda. If you're going to talk about issues of agriculture, if you're going to talk about issues of manufacturing, if you're going to talk about issues of education, health, water, if you don't address the issues of climate change, then you're not going to achieve any of those that has been listed there. For instance, if you're talking about renewable energy access, in one of the manifestos, the candidate has promised to decriminalize charcoal production, and the justification given is that bribes contribute 20 to 30% of the final prices. From this, you can see clearly the problem is not charcoal production, or the problem in this is corruption. And therefore, what we're calling for, let the candidates focus on addressing issues of corruption, which have been cited as a reason why they want to decriminalize charcoal production. And let's look at how do we advocate for other conducive alternative sources of energy access. For instance, in clean cooking, how do we enhance production of charcoal briquettes from wastes, which is going to be an effective way of providing sources of cooking. Electric cooking has been found to be even more effective. How do we ensure that we electrify our homes so that our communities can be empowered to use electric cooking as opposed to use of biomass, which accounts for 20,000 deaths annually due to indoor air pollution? When talking about climate change, how do we advocate for climate smart agriculture so that we ensure that our communities are resilient when it comes to issues of droughts and flooding, which as we see currently, Kenya being dependent on rain-fed agriculture, how do we ensure that our communities are resilient in terms of the changing weather patterns, which affects the rain seasons for rain, and our communities are not able to then afford to produce sufficient food, which is going to sustain them. And therefore, what we are calling for the candidates who have come out in this race is to not just mention issues of climate change and energy in their manifesto, but to outline clearly what they are going to do. We have seen in the other sectors, they have committed even funds. You will hear somebody, one of the candidates saying, you have committed 500 billion to manufacturing and all this. Why have not they gone to that extent to commit the same for issues of energy and climate change? That shows, therefore, lack of clear commitment to these candidates to issues of energy. And that's what we are calling for. And I believe with this, they are going to really relook into this. And even as the presidential debate comes ahead, we are going to front this question so that they can come out clear and show us the commitments they have to address these key sectors. Thank you so much.
Thank you.